Okay, sorry for the little hiccup. I had a bit of a computer malfunction. So where I was going with this was the low poly needs to, these lips need to intersect. So if we look at it with NURM subdivision and we start moving these polygons down, you'll be able to see that we have to push them farther than where we would like to in order to actually have them close and come together. So I'm going to move these down to a certain amount, and I'm going to move these other ones up a little bit. Okay, and then maybe just the ones in the center. Okay. Yeah, just push these down a bit, and there we go. We've got this closed this closed look for the mouth. Now, the thing is, when you start squishing fleshy bits together, other areas will expand. So in this case, the top of the lips might push out slightly. So I'll go in and maybe select the top and the bottom of the lips and push those out a bit. And that's it. Okay, so let's take a look to see how that's going to look on our base. I'll delete the animation that's there. And I'll go back to my morpher. And because I've got automatically reload targets on, this will already be loaded in. So I can try using my closed and see that it's already working. Okay, now I'll set a key on this. And then I'll just do another key at 30. And turn off auto key and press play. Just to see how this is going to work. So it's not too bad. I mean, maybe this is a little bit too much. But overall, for what we want right now, this is going to be fine. Okay, next. Let me get rid of these keyframes. That's fine. This one's fine. This one is going to be wide. Okay, so wide is going to be fairly easy. This is almost like an E sound. We really want to focus most of the work on the outer corners of the mouth. Okay, and if we scale those outwards, that's fine. But we should also bring them back. Because if you feel your mouth when you say E, it doesn't just go out to the sides, it gets pulled back towards your ears. So we're going to move those backwards. Now if those move, everything around it also has to move. Okay, so we're going to move these ones as well, but not as much. And pull them back slightly. And then we're going to move these ones. These ones are the ones that the mouth is kind of pushing into. So they're going to move quite a bit. This is like that big fleshy area that's going to happen. Almost like if you stick your finger into your cheek and push, that's kind of what you get. So let's just see what this is going to look like. So once again, I will animate this. This is going to be my wide. Press play. You see how this type of movement is going to work. Okay, I could probably go a little bit more extreme than that, and I think I'm going to. Like this, and I'll turn on soft selection. Just crank it down a little bit. Maybe pull backwards a bit. See how that looks. That's going to be fine. Good enough for a test. And then the last one is probably the more tricky one. This is going to be the narrow on the mouth. So kind of where it says ooh if you put your lips together. So let me grab these pieces. Oops. Let's do it this way. And I'm going to hold down, or not hold down shut, I'm just going to scale these inwards. Okay, now I know it looks a little bit odd so far, so don't worry about that. We'll get it working. Front ones, I'm going to just flatten, push out. These middle ones, also flatten and put somewhere in the center of that, and these back ones I'm going to just flatten in. Might as well bring those in roughly the same type of shape. Okay, so I tried to retain the same volume on the lips. I need to make more of an O on this shape. So, you know what, I'll just grab some edges here. So these all have to move downwards. Okay. And probably wouldn't hurt to move these downwards. And maybe these slightly outwards. So I'm trying to get an even displacement between these edges. And that's not too bad the way it is. We could give it a shot and see how it looks. I know there's still an issue around the outside, and we'll take a look at that right now. We'll just turn on NURMS. So there's a bit of an issue when making this type of shape. Be careful for any type of these really hard lines that are happening. This all comes back to subdivision modeling. When you've got two edges that are close together, it's going to try to pull that high poly in and give it an edge. So that's exactly what's happening here. Our lips are also losing some volume. So I can go back, and the inner ones I want to shrink down a lot. So watch what happens with this. So if I grab those and just scale in, you get a lot more of that volume happening. You could try pulling out to see what that's going to look like. I think actually I like that a bit better. These ones I could drop down a bit. These ones let me lift up a bit. Now we've got a big flat spot on the bottom. I'll grab the vert and lower that. And you can see how that shadow already changes. These ones I want to pull a little bit closer to that one and help round it out. Same as the top part. Closer to the center and just help round out that shape a little bit more. The outer pieces, those have to move quite a bit. Okay, these are the cheeks. And if you do an ooh sound, your cheeks come in a little bit. So I'm going to move those ooh, maybe scale them down a little bit. Maybe push forward a bit more. Okay, so that's not too bad. We can see how that's going to look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Pretty nice and round on the outside of it. Going to my morpher. Delete some keys on it. And then do the narrow. Turn that off. Press play. See how it looks. I think that looks pretty decent as it is. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to get in there and start doing a bit of rigging on this one face. There will be more morph targets needed, but for some basic movement, we really have, there's enough for some basic movement on this guy. So let me just move this over a little bit. I've downloaded a rigging file. Let me see if I can find it here. rigging tools. So it's a Mac script. I think the original guy who made it was called Fat Daddy, and it's been floating around the internet for years and years and years. So good job on this. Just saves me from having to make one. So going into the object create area, under standard primitives, drop that down to rigging tools, and we can find it. Rig tools, front window. Go ahead and click, and there you go. The anatomy of this is a little bit particular. We have 5 units that go from top to bottom. So from the 0 point, 0 to 2.5, 0 to negative 2.5. Same as this, 0 to 2.5, 0 to negative 2.5. If we look at it in local, you can see that we have Y and X. These are the values that we'll be worrying about most. Well, not really worrying, but using the most. So Y positive 2.5 is up. Y negative 2.5 is down. Positive X, negative X. Okay, so we know what that is. Naming this, I select it, I name it. I can call this, let's just call it mouth. If you want to move this around, you would select this top handle and you can move the whole thing. So that's the top of the hierarchy for that. And that's about it. So we're pretty good to go. This is what's going to work for us. You can see I'm going to drag it as far as I can. The downside to this, watch the number field down the bottom. If I drag this to the side, those numbers continue to go. So that can be a little bit tricky. One of the students in the class, he worked that out, so it worked properly, so props to him. But for the most part, we usually don't animate to the extents anyway, 100% of the morph. So a lot of the times your animations will be working somewhere in and around the 80%, 70% areas. So we shouldn't have to worry too much about going that far out anyway. Okay, so how do we do this here? How do we get this tied to the morpher and well, we already know how we get these tied to the morpher. We load them in, but how do we get the morpher tied to this controller? Well, we use Reaction Manager. So Reaction Manager is found under the animation area. Reaction Manager. Okay. It works with masters and slaves. Master being the object that's going to do the commands, and the slaves being the ones that will follow out. So in this case, I need the master, so I need the transform, FK subcontrol, position, Y position. That's my up movement. I'll also need to add an X movement. So I'm going to take add master, select the circle, transform, FK subcontrol, position, and then X position. Okay, so we've got the upwards movement and the downwards movement. To add a slave to that, we select the object, select the head, modified, morpher, and then we've got our morphs here. So I'm going to say open, because I'm on the Y position, which is up and down. So I'll say open. And I'm going to grab another one. And I'm going to say closed. I'll do the same for X position. Modified, morpher, narrow, and wide this time. There we go. A nice thing to be able to do is when you select this, just clear out these states because we're going to be adding some more in. So I'm clearing out the states on both of these. Okay. Create new states. Select your master at the top. Create 3 states. One of these we're going to call neutral. One of them will be open. One of them will be closed. Okay? You can name these anything you want. Now, I'm just about running out of time on this one, so I'm going to pause it and I'll come back in the next video.